Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this session today, which is brought to you by Soil Institute of Management. This session is an open house with the soil placements team. It's an Ask Me Anything session, and we would encourage all of you to be interactive, use the chat functionality, use the Q&A functionality to ask any questions that you have. Feel free to clear all your doubts that you have about soils placements and any statistics. This session, we have two hosts with us for this session. Firstly, is Mr. Mohammed Salman, who's the Director of Career Management Services at Soil. He's responsible for building and nurturing strong relationships for both our PGDM, our 1 year and our 2 year courses. He is an alumnus of Delhi College of Engineering and FMS Delhi. He's a business leader with over 30 years of industry experience. He's successfully led large operations in many organizations all over India. He's following his corporate career. He has successfully transitioned into a leadership role in the field of education now, which involves large responsibilities for strategic initiatives for growth of institutions, development of corporate relation to foster a strong ecosystem of partners, and the successful placement of students, such as many who are there in this webinar today. And we welcome you, Mr. Salman.
Thank you very much. I look forward to meeting all the participants here today.
Great. Our second speaker today is Ms. Ruchi Shah. She is the Associate Director in Career Management Services at Soil. Ruchi comes with 18 years of experience, in which she has put very strong importance in cultivating relationships. She's actually a certified sales trainer from NIS Sparta. She's an avid blogger on LinkedIn. She's a mentor, and she has a deep passion for facilitating young minds and pace up their career trajectories. She's worked across various industry verticals like hospitality, consumer durables, retail, education, and previous to Soil, she was at IILM as head of Career Development Center. So, Ruchi, we welcome you as well.
Thanks, Vikrant. Look forward to healthy deliberation. Thank you.
Great. Now, like I said, this is an interactive session. We would like everyone who's attending to be very free about any questions, any doubts that you have, and our speakers will do their best to answer all the questions. In a scenario that we're not able to answer your questions live, we will definitely come back to you. We'll write back we'll connect with you with the answers. And now let me just pass this virtual podium to our speakers.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Vikrant, and once again a very warm welcome to all the attendees of this webinar. We are, of course, meeting in difficult times, as we are all aware. The pandemic that has that struck nearly a year ago now has consumed virtually the entire landscape of industry, business, and all forms of life. Honestly, social life and whatever else you can think of. But with challenges come solutions, and we are very happy to tell you that, and you must of course be observing around you that businesses across the world and indeed economies across the world have now started recovering very smartly. And that is also true for our country and our economy and the businesses herein. And we are very confident that this pace of recovery will further improve as we go along. And by the time some of you, or hopefully all of you, become a part of either this institution or any other, we would have a situation where, if not the old normal, we are at least in a position where business has completely resumed. So with that beginning, I would now like to get into some of the specifics with regard to soil. You, of course, would know all about our organization and our institutions. You would have gone through all of that. I'm the focus that I and Ruchi will have during this session with you is going to be largely addressing your queries and informing you about the career options that will be shaping up for you, or that can shape up for you once you're a part of our family here at Soil. So as Vikrant said in the introduction, I am looking after the complete career management process for both of our B schools, the 1-year program and the 2-year program. And Ruchi, of course, takes care of the complete process for the 2-year program specifically, and is a very, very key integral member of our team. Now, some of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is, first is just going back very briefly to the overall macro situation. We are now seeing very encouraging signs as far as recovery in some of the sectors, and some of the major sectors is concerned. BFSI is recovering very smartly. Of course, even through the pandemic, sectors such as EdTech, FinTech, e-commerce have been doing very well. In fact, their business, if anything, has gone up compared to what it was prior to the pandemic. There are also improvements in quite a few of the other sectors, which is what is leading to the situation that we are seeing around us today as far as placements in our 2 institutes is concerned. What we are seeing is a very sound level of participation by companies across the board. So, it's not like we are receiving requirements only from certain specific sectors. We are receiving requirements from across the board. And that is a very encouraging sign, as I said, because as we go along and as the process shapes up for both of our schools, the placement process shapes up, we have full confidence that this year will continue to be as good as, if not better than, the previous years when we finally wrap up the placement season. So this is the optimism that I and my entire team have. And of course, I'll now come down to some of the specific things that, and some of the specific sectors that we are involved with. So to start with, as I said, I'll just spend a couple of minutes explaining what we in the career management services, the CMS, do overall. Placements, of course, is our #1 task and priority. So ensuring that all of you who are spending, a significant amount of time, effort, and needless to say, there's a significant amount of investment that goes into your higher education. All of you get good rewards for it, and all of you get a career that you can develop and ensure that all your aspirations as far as your jobs are concerned are fulfilled. So we are here to ensure that you're provided that platform which you would require to step into the corporate world and move forward thereafter. Over and above the placements, and of course with the placements come the summer internships, which of course are a very key part, particularly of the 2-year program, the PGDM program. Our process starts now. In fact, it is already well underway. If you look at it, we started late October, and now we are well into our placement process as well as our summer internship selection process. So both these are 2 key activities that we perform. But in order to ensure that you are successful with these activities, there's a number of other things that we do as a team. There's a number of other things that we do. It is not simply enough to ensure participation of companies in the placement and in the internship process. That is, of course, the end result. But we must ensure that all of you are able to project yourself favorably with the companies that participate in this process, and your performance in the entire selection process, be it tests, or be it group discussions, or be it face-to-face personal interviews. Face-to-face in the new context, of course, means an online process that, of course, in fact, even just this morning, we've had a selection process where even the group discussions took place online. So that's something we'll get used to. All of us are getting used to it. And the good news is our students are shaping up well, which is the feedback we are getting. So we are confident that, something similar will happen with you as well, assuming, of course, that the pandemic persists till that point. Otherwise, hopefully, we'll get our lives back to the way they used to be. So the development process that I just spoke about, the student development process, it involves extensive training for you. It involves extensive training on areas like business communication. How do you, give the best account of yourself whenever you are face to face with a recruiter? And each and every student of ours in both the schools goes through at least 3 to 4 rounds of practice GDs and as many rounds of personal interviews as well. And we have a very extensive, as you must be aware, SOIL is an extremely well connected institution. Going back to our foundation itself, we were formed, as you must all be aware, through a consortium of 32 major corporates of this country. And these are 32 of the biggest names in Indian industry, companies of the like of Hindustan Unilever, Tata Steel, Aditya Birla Group, Infosys. I mean, it's a very long list. And each of these is a giant in its own space. So because of the deep connects that we have with our consortium partners, as well as the fact that our network, thanks to our founder and a few of us who are a part of the CMS team, our network of connections across industries very vast. Therefore, even these practice rounds are frequently conducted by industry experts from specific sectors, which we want that student to get trained through. For instance, if a student has qualified for the interview process with an automotive company, then we will bring in an expert from the automotive sector to talk to you about the kind of roles that you can expect, the kind of preparation that needs to be done. Plus, of course, helping with conducting the personal interview process. Besides this, we have a very extensive network of our alumni. As you must be aware, there's now 1,100 plus of our alumni who are in good positions, and some of them in leadership and senior leadership positions in some of the best companies globally, not just in India. And that relationship that they have with the parent, which means with SOIL, is so strong and sound that whenever any of us, any member of our team or our faculty or the person who's handling alumni relationships, any of us speaks to them, they are more than willing to help out. So they help us with interview preparation. They help us with just conducting sessions with students to explain job descriptions better, so that when a student appears for an interview, he or she is very well prepared. All of these activities are taken, they take place on a regular basis. And these activities ensure that you go into any process very well prepared. Because just appearing for a process is not winning the battle. Winning the battle is getting the selection. And that is what is the aim that I and my entire team hold. Now, other than this, we also do, besides the student development activities, we also ensure that leadership talks take place on a regular basis, which means top leaders from industry come to address students, covering not just their own life's journey and the learning from it, but also in terms of answering the concerns that a lot of students have with regard to specific areas. So this is a regular process. At least once a week, we have a senior leader addressing all of our students, both at SOBD and at SOIL. So this is another activity that is coordinated through the Career Management Services, which is our team basically. And last but not the least are the external mentors. You must be aware, of course, that each student who joins our institutions, besides the internal mentors who are typically members of the faculty, they are also assigned a unique external mentor who again comes from the industry and has typically been a mid to senior level leader in that industry, in any of these industries. Therefore, the student gets to interact one-to-one with senior leaders on a regular basis, and these leaders as mentors ensure that the progress of that student and also the development areas which are identified, all of us of course have areas where we require improvement and development. So those development areas are also addressed on an ongoing basis. So this is the spectrum of activities that are addressed by our team, and which is why we interact very regularly with our students from the moment they join the program. It's a very regular ongoing interaction that takes place. In fact, a lot of students have told us frequently that they perhaps know us better than they know a lot of the others at SOIL. So that is something which is which we are very happy about, and we would like to extend that further as we go along. Last but not the least, I just want to spend a couple of minutes on the process, the placement process that we have starting this year, because this is, as you're aware, 2021 will be the first year when the first batch of the School of Business Design also graduates. So starting this season itself, we have commenced a combined selection process for both institutes. So both the one-year program and the two-year program are participating jointly in the placement process, meaning thereby when we share opportunities with organizations or from organizations with our students, we are doing it for both the schools. And likewise, the organizations themselves are able to assess the talent of both schools in the same process basically. So therefore you will have the added advantage, once you join say the School of Business Design, you would be looking at a very vast pool of recruiters. It's not just recruiters who are unique to SOBD, but it will be the entire set of SOIL recruiters that you will have access to. And this offers numerous advantages. From the employer's perspective, for instance, the biggest advantage is they get to see a larger pool of students from which they can assess their talent needs. So therefore, they also see a huge benefit in this. And of course, they see a more diverse, background of students. It's not just people with a high level of experience whom they get to meet. They also get to meet students who are fresh out of their graduation or those having limited experience, 0 to 1 year or 1 to 2 years as well. So this is a huge advantage. And the reason why this process will work very well for the two-year program in particular is that a lot of organizations come to assess students based on their experience, and also in some cases they want to assess students based on how fresh their profile is. So you will sort of have the benefit of both the worlds. In fact, some companies do not, as a policy, assess students from the one-year program at all. So those would also be available to you as students of the two-year program. So it's a dual advantage from that perspective. So with these words, I will wrap up what I wanted to convey to you upfront. I will now request Ruchi to take over. She will discuss our placement process, some stats, some companies, and thereafter we'll take questions from you. So over to you, Ruchi.
Thank you so much, Salman. So great. So I think Salman has tried making you understand the kind of DNA soil has been, surviving upon. And I must tell you, the more industries, the more companies we interact with, the relationship of soil with them embeds a true picture in sense that it is much more than only placements. So placements is just a bit of that. And I think the kind of students we have and the kind of principles and the foundations the whole program is woven around, especially the School of Business Design, where design thinking and liberal arts has been the background of entire curriculum. And for SOIL, the one-year program, I think digital transformation and the analytics is the forefront. So with these skill sets in place, I think we establish an affinity with the industries, the emerging roles, and across sectors. So that's the first thing I would like to put across. The second thing is that people joining in for a management education, be it an year or a 2-year program, I think when we say careers, it means getting back to your family business with a bang. It also means that you tangibilize your dreams and initiate your own ventures. And of course, you start your journey with the corporates. So all three is viewed, reviewed parallelly with equivalent, importance and significance. And the career teams really respects any of the kind of decision you are bound to take based on the your thoughts and what you're planning to do. Point number 3, I think the primary focus, I believe rather, the primary focus of ours is to make sure we develop the the students we have with us. We try to market them and we try to connect them with the corporates. That's how corporates as mentors, when they listen to the leaders, when they conduct conferences. So we want them to be the forefront. And that is how at both SOIL and School of Business Design, what we call SOBD, we have a placement committee at place, which is very strong in itself. And they are the ones who drive most of the things, down the line. And not only down the line, we want them to be the forerunners. We as a team should be the facilitators and they should carry the banner for us. That's where we we are trying to lay our focus upon. And we see students before they join the corporates, they get into a journey which makes them ready to join a corporate. So that's what 3 things I wanted to mention very, very clearly, apart from what Salman said. While we look at the roles and the stats in terms of the placements, we will have the first batch graduating in April 2021. So we have lined up a lot of companies, both for the final placements and for internships, and the companies and the processes are up and running. Point number 2, we make sure the profile of, the kind of descriptions a company is looking for in terms of the jobs they are hiring for seems to make the right fit with the candidates we have. So it is evaluated, it is seen, and then only it is, shared in the interest of the candidates who have the skill set to be there. So that's one thing. Second is, there are people who are experienced, there are people who are fresh, but we still make the best endeavor that the packages and the compensation we bring on board at least, follow the hygiene bracket which we have. Of course, there is no upper limit to it, and we would want more and more people to get hired towards that. But definitely we have a cap on the compensations. Uh, Below a certain point, we would not really invite companies, because we understand that that's where the students are eligible for going forward. The third thing here is the roles which a student is looking for. We sit back with them, we have a one-on-one interaction with them, they undergo interviews which are mocked with the alumni, they have external mentors, we get them live projects to have a little hands-on experience, and then eventually they have to take a decision on what roles, and see, everything is very brutal in the sense, when a feedback is given, they should know what they are meant for and what they are aspiring. So there is nothing which is pseudo, there is nothing which is false, everything has to be true, and that's how it goes forward. So we make them understand what roles they are meant for, what looks their forte, and we try mapping them accordingly. So these are again three things in terms of the statics. If you wish, we can let you know that companies, the IT giants, have been our hiring partners through and through from last 12 years, I must say, because of Soil, and will be there with us in the journey. We try to bring in the FMCG companies, we try to bring in the conglomerates for better mix of the companies. And we also try to look at what has been the dream company of a candidate, and where does he envisage himself, in next couple of years, to make sure that we are able to get the companies what they are looking for in the direction. And after all, getting into this program has to be rewarded and redeemed, appropriately. So that's what I would like to say. Yeah, Salman, anything?
No, I think you covered it very nicely, Ruchi. Now, we would, of course, the whole idea behind this session was we wanted to hear from you. So, all of you, please feel free to address any questions that you have to us, and we shall, attempt to answer them right away. If you have any questions with regard to the placements, the placement process, the our performance on placements over the past few years, please feel free to ask.
So we have one question right now coming in.
Yeah.
And so this question says, what kind of support from college does a student get?
Okay. It's a great question. We covered quite a bit of it when both of us were, conveying our initial thoughts, but I shall answer it, in more depth. So the support that you get from us is actually multifold. First and foremost, of course, we maintain all the relationships with top organizations which participate in our campus hiring process. So that, of course, is something which is done behind the scenes, not something that you get to see directly, but it's something which we and our team are taking care of. In more direct terms comes the support with regard to preparing you better. And that, like both of us just told you, is a multi-step process. It involves specific trainings, it involves practice sessions that we conduct for you, it involves interaction with alumni, interaction with mentors, ensuring that job descriptions which come in from organizations are properly explained to you, you understand what is expected from you in the interview process, and thereafter plenty of feedback is given. Like Ruchi said, feedback is a very critical part of it. Whenever, for instance, I'll be running some more of these practice interviews for a process that is taking place tomorrow with a very large, conglomerate. So my task would be not just in terms of conducting that interview, but in terms of giving detailed feedback to each student that I meet on the areas of improvement and what do they need to do to get better at those. So this is, I mean, you could call it a hand-holding process in some ways. You could, just call it a support process in other ways. But we ensure that all of you are given all the help that you would require to succeed. Our final goal is, and we and our team get measured by the success, which means all of our students getting placed with good companies in good roles at good compensations. All these three things need to be there. So I hope I have addressed that question. If there are any other doubts, I would be happy to hear from you.
So there are many more questions coming in. Let me start with the first one in the order they came. So Nitin says, thanks for the great session. What is the process for lateral placements?
Okay, Nitin. So typically the way this works is for the first 2 to 3 months of the placement process, we run the standard campus hiring process, which means organizations coming to assess a number of our students, out of which they make a selection based on the roles and the requirements that they have. And of course, I think we talked about what those processes are like. The lateral hiring process is something which we typically, at least in normal years, used to start after the month of January with the few students who were left by that time. Our effort, of course, is to try and complete at least 80 to 90% of our placements by the end of January. But there are times, I'll be honest with you, where it spills over beyond that. So starting early February, we would bring in lateral opportunities as well, which means based on the mapping of each individual student who is unplaced at that point in time, we would bring in opportunities that would be fitting that student's profile and that student's desired area of working in. So, which means, and the way this is done is, right at the time you start off in your program, we map your profile out. There's a very thorough mapping which is done in terms of your past experience, your skills, some of the development areas that we have identified in you. All of these things, based on these, we map you out and we start an internal positioning exercise in terms of what are the roles and what are the kinds of organizations that would be very suitable for you. Of course, at the end of the day, it is your decision always. Please remember that. None of us at CMS will ever coerce you to go in for a certain role or into a certain organization. Finally, it has to be your choice. But we do this mapping to ensure that once the lateral season starts, the lateral hiring season starts, we are ready with opportunities that can be addressed for you. So I hope that has answered your question regarding lateral hiring.
I would just add, Salman, to this in terms of the process, how we are progressing in that. So possibly with the virtual processes format we are in, the companies are planning to get into a video, resume format or a video of the candidate for a minute or so, which they also, take it as a qualifying or an elimination round. And we start off with an aptitude test, a psychometric, a video round, collated everything. They give us a short list, and then the interview round happens. Somewhere group discussions also happen. But this interview round is not only a single round, it may be an HR round, and then the business head round, and then the final round. So there can be 3 rounds of interviews for that. So every role comes up with these steps, all of them or some of them as a part of your process, whether it is a fresh hiring, a lateral hiring, or an experienced candidate hiring. Yeah.
Right. Okay, looking at some of the other questions now. Vikrant, do you want to run that, or should I read them out?
Sure. I was actually primed to ask one more. So
Sure. Please go ahead.
Swati is asking, what are the roles offered by companies to the PGDM students? So more of a role specific. What do people?
Okay. So, Swati, it's a very extensive list of roles that are offered for PGDM. As I said, all the roles that are coming into to the 1-year program are also being offered to the 2-year program now, as I mentioned when I was talking to you earlier. So this includes roles across the spectrum in areas like marketing, human resources, finance, analytics. I mean, there's a very long list of roles in each of these segments, and we can send you that detailed list. So marketing would have a variety of roles, from brand management to being a product manager and so many other things. You could be in analytics, you could have a role in data science, you could have finance roles, you could have HR roles. So depending on the area that you are specializing in, there will be roles for you in the PGDM program, which are also being shared with the 1-year program. So there's a very, very vast list of roles that you will have to choose from. We can share a comprehensive list with you if you so desire.
Yeah, largely management trainees is what they hire. Look at what are you good at and try placing you. So with most of the companies, that's also a start point. But like Salman said, every domain shall have its own set of roles, from analyst to let's say a marketing guy or a sales guy or a business development or a client servicing person.
Yep. Yes, Vikrant.
Thanks. So one question is, considering the current pandemic and corporate situation, how good is it to choose the PGPM HR program in terms of placement?
The PGPM HR program in terms of placement. Okay, so this is a very relevant question in today's context. So let me put it to you like this. As of today, I mean, and we are sitting on the 2nd of December. As of today, we are not seeing a lesser number of roles shared thus far, as as both our BLP program is concerned or our HR program is concerned. It is this, similar number of companies as we used to get earlier. In fact, a few new ones have got added. In HR specifically, there are two differences essentially between the HR hiring and the BLP hiring or the business leadership hiring that take place. Largely, you will not see situations where companies come in for bulk hires in HR, but that has always been the case. Pandemic or no pandemic, we've always had a slightly lesser requirement for HR roles in terms of the volume of hires from a single organization. So that is why for our HR students, we spread out across a vast number of companies to ensure that there are adequate number of opportunities for each student. Now, has the pandemic impacted this? At this moment, there is nothing to suggest that there is an adverse impact on any kind of hiring, including HR, because all the roles, as I just said, all the roles that we used to see for HR till this point, we have seen them again this year. So I'm very hopeful, fingers crossed, that that situation will continue. So you should, if you do have a deep interest in human resource management, please feel free to go in for that. There is no need for you to get any concerns on the hiring front there.
Okay. Yeah. So we have a question from Ishan. saying, can you share some companies that come for placements in marketing?
Okay. So
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead, Ruchi.
yeah. So I think most of the companies, if you really see, they start off with business development and analytics as a role. So we have received Volvo Eicher, we have Newgen, we have Calpro, and all these companies, what I'm naming, are in the area of sales and marketing. When you say marketing, I understand that they can be either into marketing research, they can be either into digital marketing, or if there is an experience of sales as a background, then of course into the branding and the product roles. So that's where what I understand is of marketing. When you say sales, so possibly it would be a B2B sales or a client relationship management or a client servicing role, and similar, where you develop your network, expand your network. So all the companies generally come with an HR, with a marketing role. Some of them come coupled with HR roles also. But yes, there would not be any starvation in terms of the marketing, because if you look at the organization structure also, sales is the spine, and therefore larger numbers are hired, and the number for HR and finance looks lesser in proportion as compared to them, what exactly Salman was explaining, because the requirement in the organization setup is also like that. So these will be Infosys. I mean, all the IT giants have been coming for product roles, for analytics roles, and for business development also. Intech, which is into infrastructure from last so many years, that's also into the marketing and sales role. So these are. So we are speaking to Colgate, we're speaking to Mondelez to be here in the area of to be hiring in the area of sales. We are talking to Protivity, which generally hires in analyst or the marketing research roles. Most of the companies, when they offer a good compensation, would like to pick up people from their interns. They have been largely offering the pre-placement offers to most of the people who have been their interns. To give you an example, Aditya Birla Capital hires 50 to 70 interns each year, and 90% of the interns are hired full-fledged as into their final hires, and that also squeezes and shrinks the possibility of hiring the fresh people. Similarly, Volvo Eicher, which is conducting its process today, also offers a lot of pre-placement offers to the candidates, which they have hired as a summer interns. So Tata Click also does that. So their route to final hiring is through internship. So all these companies we are naming, of course, they bring up the role which is into sales and marketing. Then we have Bennett Group, which runs a sales training, sales management trainee program, and they pick up people for a month's internship at a good stipend, and then they hire it full time. So these are some of the companies which really come in the area of sales and marketing.
Right. So you've named some specific companies, but what I want to inform the person who's just raised this question is, marketing roles, as Ruchi just said, exist across all sectors. So and all areas, all verticals of industry. So we get marketing roles out of IT, we get marketing roles out of retail, we get marketing roles out of manufacturing, we get marketing roles out of BFSI. All of these industries and all of these sectors, there are plenty of marketing opportunities. And as she just said, marketing typically tends to be our largest cohort in both the schools. So therefore, the placement opportunities in marketing are quite substantial. I would say they are very substantial.
Right, sorry. So one more question that I see is, what have been some of the placement statistics in terms of CTC and the batch getting placed.
Okay, so the placement stats that we have for the previous batch, as you're all aware, SOBD or our 2-year program would be having its first placement batch in 2021. So there is no past data there. But what I can do is I can share, some figures from the last batch of the 1-year program in terms of compensation and so on. So our average compensation for the last batch was in excess of 10 lakhs per annum, 10.2 or 10.3, somewhere in that range. The specific numbers and the median was also close to it. The median was also close to that number of 10.3. For the HR cohort, this number was slightly lower. It was at 9.6 to 9.7. And for the other 3 cohorts on an average, it was average, the figure was upwards of 10.7. So roughly, you could take 10.3 as the average figure for the last batch. So, the composition of the batch, of course, we've already told you. Marketing is typically the largest, followed by analytics and HR, which are very close together, and we get a slightly smaller cohort in finance.
Okay, thanks. I don't see any more questions coming in. I mean, if there's anyone who's got any doubts right now, can feel free to share any questions, and our speakers will be answering it. But for now, I think we've answered most of the doubts from the attendees. So, any parting words, ma'am, sir?
No, I mean, all I wanted to say is, we would, these are, I'll end up the way I started. These are challenging times, but we are very, very excited that these challenges are bringing out the best in a lot of us. And based on that, I have the full faith and confidence that from a placement perspective, we will end up doing at least as well, if not better, hopefully better than previous batches have done. And therefore, I have all the confidence that all of you who will be investing your time, your effort, your money into these programs at SOIL are going to be beneficiaries in the long run.
Yes, and from my end, all the best to the people, and look at the program as a holistic, 2-year journey or a 1-year journey. What does it really entail? And definitely experience the emerging trends with us, possibly in the area of design thinking, digital transformation, analytics, and liberal arts, because we are hands-on now to it. We have got experts who have been on board with us to deliver the skill set which is requisite for the required corporates for tomorrow. So this is what I want to say, and all the best to everybody of you. Thank you.
Thanks very much.